Over the past week, we've received quite a lot of Counter-Strike 2 updates, to be exact 3 updates in total, which is very impressive to be honest. These updates did address quite a lot of the issues players have had with the game, and also address some of the brand new bugs that players discovered, which was really great to see as well. Apologies for being extremely late this time around. I wasn't really able to record over the past couple of days, which I'm very sorry for. I will try to be quicker again with future updates, but this time around, apologies, I wasn't really able to record anything. Without further ado now, let's start today's video, and as always of course, timestamps will be in the description down below, so if you want to skip ahead, feel free to do so. Let's start off with the update from the 13th of November, which was mainly addressing gameplay issues, like fixing a bug where collision between players was sometimes causing players to step up. I think they're referring to this issue right here. They also fixed a bug where players could slide up the walls in Mirage's middle, which was pretty funny to be honest, but I guess it makes sense they fixed this one. They addressed an issue with the movement system where players could get stuck on geometry, which is a really fantastic change. This was pretty infuriating when you were getting stuck on what appeared to be basically nothing. As an example, one of the areas I noticed a difference with was next to T-spawn on Ancient. The tunnel area feels a lot smoother than it did before, and you no longer get randomly stuck on the walls, which is a really great change. Good job, Valve. They also fixed the case where switching weapons immediately after shooting would result in the shot not registering on the server, which could have caused some issues with shooting, as well as addressing a couple of other issues, which you can see on screen right now. Moving on to the update from the 16th of November, which was a pretty huge update. This one did address quite a lot of bugs as well as fixing a bunch of other issues, which have been present in the game for quite some time. Let's start off with the gameplay changes. We've received some more subtic visual and audio feedback improvements. While I'm not entirely sure myself what this update did, MrMaxim made a video covering this exact topic, so if you want to see a more detailed analysis, definitely make sure to check out his video, link will be in the description down below. They also reduced the sniper scope bobbing animation, magnitude and frequency. You can definitely see a difference here if you focus on the edges of the sniper scope. I think this is a pretty good change. Unfortunately still no view bobbing commands, but I really hope that Valve will add them in the near future. They also addressed an issue which some of you guys pointed out in a previous video. When the duck mode was set to toggle, it was causing the ducks to be slower, which was pretty annoying to be honest, and they finally did address this. On the left you can see duck mode set to hold, and on the right you can see duck mode set to toggle. Before this update there was a weird bug that was occurring every now and then, which caused a significant slowdown. After this update this is no longer the case, which now makes the duck mode set to toggle once again usable. Players can no longer mitigate fall damage by defusing the bomb, which was previously an issue. We've received some adjustments to the weapon drop trajectories to make throwing weapons more consistent, which in return caused a pretty hilarious bug, which unfortunately has already been fixed, but this one basically allowed you to throw things very far. You can see this on screen right now, and it was pretty hilarious to be honest. We've also received some unique sounds for running and jumping on metal railings and poles, which you can hear now. Something I would like to point out is while running there is sometimes still the old sounds playing. I'm not entirely sure if this is intentional or not, but it is just something I wanted to point out. When a network interruption is detected by the official game servers, the affected match will now be cancelled, and this is how it's going to look like. We've also received some adjustments for grenades. Thrown grenades no longer prematurely detonate if thrown while intersecting a teammate, and they also fixed the case where the grenade throws weren't registering on the server. For the animation changes, we have received some adjustments to some weapons, in this case the CZ75, which had an issue with its deploy animation when interrupted with an inspect. You can see the difference on screen right now. And the Mech 10 has received some adjustments to its first person animation to include strap and bolt movement. We've also received some fixes for certain knives, in this case the Shadow Daggers have received some adjustments to its inspect and other animations, and the Survival Knife finally had its broken wrist animation fixed, which is good to see. The revolver barrel now incrementally rotates for each shot, and they also fixed some cases where the player's shadow would show an incorrect pose. This was showcased very nicely by Aquarius on Twitter, so full credits go to them. The C4 light now once again blinks when being held or holstered by players, which sometimes didn't work before, as well as a few more bug fixes which you can see on screen right now. Moving on to the miscellaneous changes, we've received some performance improvements of the screen particle effects, and decals now evict the lowermost decal if enough decals are overlapping in a single location. Smoke particles no longer stick to dead ragdolls, which may have been kind of confusing before this update. We've received a fix to self-team or burn damage getting recorded as enemy damage, which definitely was an issue before this update. We've received some improvements for the demo playback, which is really good to see. They also finally seem to work fully, which was an issue before where sometimes when you loaded up a demo playback, it actually didn't load the correct demo, which was pretty annoying. They fixed the bug where butt knives only didn't work for the Ts, as well as addressing a few other issues. For the user interface changes, we've received some pretty cool updates this time around. Valve revised some common chat strings, so now for grenade messages, instead of having this generic message, the grenades are now color-coded, which is pretty cool to see. I personally really like this change. They also ended up making some further adjustments to the chat messages in general, so the team chat now looks quite different than before, as well as the chat for everyone. This is certainly something that feels a bit weird at the moment, but I think we may get used to in the future. Valve added this brand new warning message, which may be helpful for some users, as it tells you when you have outdated graphics drivers. The buy menu has also received this slight quality of life improvement, which in my opinion is a pretty nice addition. Instead of saying Kevlar and helmet, if you already own Kevlar, it will now just say helmet. It's just a small addition, but a neat one at that. We've received some adjustments to the Deathmatch scoreboard stats, from kill, deaths, assist and score, to kills, headshot percentage, damage and score, as well as a plethora of bug fixes and other adjustments. This update also brought some improvements for the workshop tools, which you can see on screen right now. Lastly, of course, for this update, let's go over all of the map changes, and this time around there's a ton of map changes. We have received some adjustments for Overpass, Ancient, Mirage, Office, Anubis, Inferno, Nuke and Vertigo. Starting off with Overpass, which received a lot of attention to grenade clipping, regular clipping issues, as well as some other bug fixes. Some of the ones include this fire extinguisher and connector, which has received some adjustments, as well as these boxes and cable stacks. They've also added a metal plate on bomb site A to the SWAT van to hide players' feet, as well as adjusting the clipping around the van. Ancient has received some similar attention with player and grenade clipping adjustments, as well as closing various holes and cracks in the world. On Mirage, they fixed the clipping around the scaffolding at bomb site A. In the patch note it says bomb site B, but I'm pretty sure they're referring to this location here. They did this to prevent the one-way peeking through the geometry, which I think refers to something like this. Office also received a lot of clipping adjustments for grenades as well as for players. Some of the changes on Office include these electrical boxes, where previously you could get boosted on top of them, which is no longer possible after this update. They've removed the collisions from the pipes and cameras at the CT spawn garage. And they've also adjusted the vending machine braking sequence. Instead of having the lights reappear over and over again, the animation only plays once. Moving on to Anubis, which has received quite a lot of changes with this update as well. They've improved the ground at bomb site A so that it has more accurate footstep sounds, which seems like a pretty good change, as well as addressing some of the areas which had some Z-fighting issues. Basically, if you have two meshes that are overlapping, this can cause this flickering effect, which is Z-fighting. One of these areas was in Connector, where you had this issue, as well as for one of the backdrop temples. According to the patch notes, near T-spawn, but I discovered it near CT spawn. They also fixed this gap in the canal area, which you can see on screen right now, as well as fixing this really tiny gap on bomb site B, which actually took me quite some time to find, but it's good to see that this one has been fixed now. Inferno received some minor adjustments with this update. The main focus is once again player clipping adjustments, as well as fixing various micro gaps. They've also ended up moving the bucket on the scaffolding on bomb site B that could be mistaken for a player during combat. Moving on to Nuke, which received some minor clipping fixes on rooftops and HUD, as well as some better acoustics in pool on bomb site B. Lastly, let's talk about Vertigo, which received a lot of clipping adjustments for players as well as for grenades. A few other things I would like to highlight is they've added this brand new wooden board on bomb site B, as well as moving the stack of drywall, apparently for better movement or cover. The job site injury signs should now be more responsive, and in the middle of the map they fixed these steel beams which previously were disconnected. However, some of them are still disconnected. Last but not least, let's go over the update from the 17th of November. Valve fixed a few minor sub-tick input bugs, which is good to see, as well as addressing the issue with the dropped or thrown weapons which had too much velocity. They also addressed an issue where players could push their view through low ceilings. This was especially an issue on Office, which you can see on screen right now. This allowed you to see through walls, which was pretty overpowered. The teleport exploit was also addressed with this update, which is really great to see. Valve reacted very quickly. This was showcased very nicely by PSP1G. Definitely make sure to check them out. Link will be in the description down below. Full credits go to them. We've also received some further map adjustments, as well as some adjustments to certain skins, knives and gloves. One of these skins that I would like to highlight, which has been fixed now, is of course the Daybreak. This is really great to see for everyone who owns the Daybreak, because previously it looked pretty terrible. And that's already going to conclude today's video. This was a lot of information this time around. Once again, apologies for being super late with this, but I hope it was still informative and enjoyable to watch. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, of course, I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.